Hello, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. Thanks for joining us in our series of interviews with candidates for City Council in the fall of 2015. In the studio with me now is Gwen Jones. She is a candidate for Ward 3. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You know it. Well, I don't know if people are going to watch every single one of these, but we'll just let them know that we decided ahead of time, even though all these questions are given all the candidates, in Gwen's case, we're going to mush 1 and 2 together. So here you go. What motivates you to run for office, and why do you think you are qualified to do so?
So I would have to say that my qualifications are what motivated me to run for office. So that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about my background, my education, my experience.
Yeah.
I'm a long-term Montanan. I come from several generations of Montana. My dad grew up on a ranch in Miles City, and my mom grew up in Whitefish and in Libby. I grew up in Ward 3 here in Missoula, which is where I'm running for council now.
Sure.
And Ward 3 is University District, Riverfront, and Rose Park. I grew up in the University District, and now I live in the Rose Park neighborhood. I graduated in high school from 1983.
Do you want to say which one?
Sure.
Your favoritism?
Well, I went to Paxton I went to Paxton for grade school.
Okay.
I went to Loyola Sacred Heart for high school.
Oh, did you?
So, yeah, plucked right out of the public school system.
Yeah.
But I went away to college, and after that went to law school, and my original motivation for going to law school was to get into city government. And then, of course, life happens. I got very busy with other things and wound up practicing in litigation for about 7 or 8 years. And then about 10 or 11 years ago, my husband and we decided to move back here with our 3 kids because I said Missoula is just one of the best places to raise a family. So since I've been back in Missoula, I have been practicing law part-time. I write appeals now, and my husband and I have a practice together. And I've also spent a huge amount of time volunteering, which I have 3 children, so I volunteered a ton in the schools, Paxton School, Washington Middle School, Missoula Lacrosse Club. For the schools, I wrote grants, administrated programs, raised money, all sorts of stuff like that. In the last 2 years, I've been working volunteering at the Rose Park Neighborhood Council on the leadership team, which was a great foray into city government. So
Yeah.
I take all of that, I take having a legal education and practicing law, where you can think analytically, look at issues from different sides, write well, think in that logical fashion, and then all of that experience from volunteering, where you're working with different people, different issues. How are you going to communicate? How are you going to work together? When do you need to think outside of the box? When do you need to think inside of the box? And I take all of that, and I thought this is just a fantastic time for me to run for office. Alex Taft is not running again. There's an open spot. And for me, my oldest is a senior at Hellgate now, so we're starting to move the kids on through.
Less responsibility in that respect.
So I would have to say my qualifications, I just feel like I'm at a point in my life where it's great timing for me, and I feel like I have a lot to give. Plus, growing up in Ward 3, knowing lots of people in Missoula from when I grew up here and from the last 10 years volunteering, I have, I guess you could call it some type of, a kind of institutional memory.
Right.
Knowing the history of Missoula, I think, helps you go forward.
Got it.
There you go.
That was really good. That was a 1-2. And in effect, your achieving office would be a dream come true.
Yes.
Because of all this preparation. Here's your question 3. What will your priorities be if you are elected?
So, several priorities. I think the most important priority, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing about this, but I think it's very important, is acquisition of mountain water. As an attorney, I went to law school in Boulder, Colorado. I took a lot of natural resources
classes
in law school, exactly. One of which, major one, was water law, and having spent time in law school studying water law and understanding the magnitude of issues and the fact that we live in the arid West, where water is our liquid gold, I think it highly important that we acquire mountain water, and the fact that it is currently held by a corporation, for-profit corporation, and their priorities legally are to try and put money in their shareholders' pockets is just at odds with having a city water system. If it was a nonprofit, that might be different, but it's not. So I think it's highly important that we acquire our own water system and have our own vested interest in maintaining it and running it well. And it's really, I think we need to look at it in terms of this is what we're giving to the next few generations. That is so important. My other main priority is, and I'll talk about that in the fourth question, there's a lot of overlap here, the growth policy and growth that's coming up in Missoula. We're going to have a huge amount of growth. The economy's picking up. A lot of commercial permits have been pulled. So we're going into a new stage, which from that 2008 to 2011 stagnant recession, we are now starting to kick into a very solid middle to high gear. So we're going to be looking at preserving open space. How do we maintain and improve our environment? How do we have building going on that's aesthetically pleasing so that we...
Design standards of some sort.
Exactly, design standards, not only for commercial buildings that are 3,000 square feet or up, but those smaller too. So, because this is what we're looking at for the next 40 to 60 years. So all of those things are so important. And how do we have growth in our city that is community oriented and maintains a real livability here so that we connect as a community instead of being isolated? Those are my priorities.
Okay. Question 4. Yes, it will dovetail, won't it? What does the future of Missoula look like to you?
So, again, expanding on the growth theme that we have going here, there's going to be a lot of growth in Missoula. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that for the last umpteen months, the community of Missoula has been working on a new growth policy.
Yes, MCAT just did a wonderful interview with Lavelle Means and Tom Zavitz about the next stage of the inward growth policy.
Nice.
And of course, MCAT will be there tomorrow, Tuesday, when it's presented to Planning Board.
Excellent. And it has several more stages before it's truly finalized, but I have been looking at it as it's been written over the last few months, and there's a lot of wonderful things in there. I think there's been a lot of quality time and thought that the community's put into that growth policy, and that will be a huge tool for City Council to use as we establish more design review, as we look at where there's going to be more building and how it's going to be done. That's going to be the guiding or driving force behind all of it, is a growth policy. So I think it's great that time and energy have been put into that. And really, what I look at is I think Missoula has had a lot of foresight in the last few years. To get a growth policy in place before the growth really hits is wonderful. Not every community has that luxury. Sometimes
you feel it's more proactive than reactive.
Absolutely, and I have lived in places where growth has been reactive, and it's usually just not very well done. So to be proactive in this sense and have a growth policy and be able to have some vision for the future and do the best we can. I'm sure there'll be mistakes along the way, but to at least be trying to issue spot and do the best we can will be great. I think another huge thing that's coming in the future for Missoula is we're going to be dealing with more climate change, and we need to do the best we can as a community to prepare for that, adapt for it, hopefully prevent it. I was at the Public Lands Conference Friday over at the university, which was fantastic. And you're hearing really from experts across the country talk about different legal aspects of climate change. And it's here to stay, and it's going to get worse. So we need to do the best we can, and that means things like maintaining our urban forest, and investing in that will help keep us cool and provide better air for us.
It's an issue, right? Because I think the urban forests, or Morgan Valiant is saying, those trees that were so pleasant and planted at the beginning of the last century are coming all together at the end of their life.
Right. So they've got a great plan in place. Of course, it'll need financing. It's going to need work. But again, wonderful foresight from our city government, I think. But we need to focus on implementing the urban forest because trees take a long time to grow in our arid forest. We also have the Conservation and Climate Action Plan that the city has adopted, and some headway's been made with that. But having been at this conference on Friday, it's just so important. We need to do the best we can because we need to be the vision for the future as best we can, I think. So those are some issues I see
in the future for Missoula.
Yes.
A lot of people are remarking, that the fire seasons are getting worse and worse, and we have these hard winters. So the period where you really enjoy Missoula is shrinking, unless you're a skier, of course. Okay, so here's your free-form question, number 5. What haven't we touched upon that you would like to say?
So, one thing that I want to give a little pitch for that I feel very strongly about is the school bond. I am so in support of the school bond. I sat on the Paxson Elementary School Facilities Planning Committee 2 years ago, which was the initial base that was provided with a lot of community involvement to trying to determine what Paxson Elementary School's needs were. Not their wants, but what their needs were. And having had kids in the school district for the last 11, 12 years since we moved here, and being highly involved in the schools and then sitting on that committee, I am totally convinced that our school bond is very, very important. And I know people say, oh, it's really big, and why is there deferred maintenance? But the bottom line is, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, big recession. It would not have been a good time to ask for a school bond. And also, school enrollment was declining at that point.
Yeah.
And if you look at the demographic numbers now, the schools are full to bursting right now, and there's much more coming. There are a lot of kids coming, and it goes back to the baby boomer wave of demographics. So this is the way our society is set up. So we need to prepare for those kids, and our schools need more classrooms. They need to update their technology, and there's some safety issues. So those, in my mind, are absolutely needs, not wants. So I really hope the school bond passes. I think it's so important. But in terms of a city council perspective on the school bond, even though the school bond will be voted on by the general populace, it's not a city council decision, it does affect city council. Because first of all, the money to pay for the bond will be coming from property taxes, so homeowners' pockets. It's coming from the same place as the major financing for the city. So I think city council, if the school bond passes, city council needs to be very sensitive and do their best in terms of managing the budget, because the school bond will be very expensive, although well worth it. Secondly, I think it's so important in terms of a city council perspective, because if we pass this school bond and invest in our schools, we already have a very good public school system, but it will be that much better. It will be stronger. It will be a fantastic public school system. And in terms of enticing businesses to come to Missoula, having a great school system is one of the best selling points. I would love to see more of a manufacturing component in our Missoula economy. We have the university, we have a lot of retail, we have health, but I would love to see more manufacturing, be it computer, broadband, computer information, that kind of thing. It does need to be something small that we don't have to put on a train and export out of here, because we're always going to outprice ourselves. But if we have a strong school system, that's, I think, one of the best arguments for enticing businesses to come here. So it really benefits everyone in this town. And for that reason, I hope people vote for the school bond.
Great. Well, Gwen, thanks for taking the time to come down here.
Thank you. I did want to mention that I have a website, gwenjonesforcouncil.org, and I'm at Bernice's Bakery this month every Wednesday from 7 until 8 o'clock. If anybody wants to come down and chat with me.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, thank you again for stopping by MCAT, too.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And thank you for watching this ongoing interviews we're having with City Council candidates in the fall of 2015. I'll just leave you with this thought you've heard at the end of a lot of our interviews. The election is a mail-in ballot. If you don't receive a mail-in ballot in the next few weeks, please call the Missoula County Elections Office to clarify your address or your voter registration status. Well, for MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.